All right, welcome everybody. Just checking to see, make sure there's no one else trying to get in here and get situated. All right, well, welcome to this webinar. This afternoon, we're going to talk about just some programming things, moving from QList to QList for playback, live events, a little bit of busking. But nothing too crazy here. So anyway, so without further ado, we'll get started. Well, any questions you have, feel free to type them in the chat. We'll answer them as we go. Answer them at the end as well. I have a feeling that this is going to not run that long, so we'll probably have a bunch of time at the end to answer some questions and whatnot. So, all right. So to start off, I'm going to open up a couple Q lists here that I previously put together. And these two Q lists are just some stuff that I programmed for some songs, made up some stuff. They start and they end with a blue sort of a transition cue. And this way we can have go from our transition to a blackout, then have a move in black, some things happening, some more cues, a blackout at the end, and then finally back into my blue look. Similar thing in the other cue list as well. I'm going to close that one out. The other cue list has a blue cue and just a couple cues, nothing too crazy. Going out and then back into the blue, sort of the transition look again. So there are a couple different ways of linking these cue lists together for playback. So the benefit to having that blue cue in the beginning and the end of each one of them is that we have a look we can transition between so that we're not dipping or anything like that. You don't necessarily need to have it in both cue lists, but for sometimes it makes it easier to do that. I took both of those cue lists and I drug them on the playbacks right now. So this is exactly how it would be done if I programmed it right off the bat without doing any other settings or commands or anything like that. So I'd have my first cue list here, and I'd be playing through it and get to the end. And then I have my song 2, and I'd start that one. Now, the challenge here right now is that I'm playing, technically both cue lists are playing at the same time. So we wouldn't necessarily want to have both playing the same time to do this type of thing. Because, I mean, in this case, things are sort of working all right just because it's dumb luck. But if I had some other things programmed in here, they might not, these fixtures might not be doing what I expect them to do because I still have other things playing here. Especially an effect. If an effect was running, it wasn't stopped, it could continue to play. So there are a couple ways of doing things here to make these transition nicely. The first one I'm going to show is inserting commands in these cues. So if I were to open up my cue list, my song 1 cue list, recently in a newer build of Vista, I think this came in the R2 build, or maybe it was an early R3. There's a command in here called release all except, and that's a great command for if you're running a single cue list at a time. You make sure everybody else is released. It's in the tools menu under insert command. And it's down here at the bottom, release all except. And what this allows us to do is it's going to release anybody else except for the one that it's selected here. So right now in this version of Vista, we see this, it's going to say song 1, say song 2. In the next build of Vista, there's actually this is changed and it's going to say current cue list. It helps you know that you're looking at this one and it matches what this is. So for now, I have the old build on here, so we're going to go with this. So release all except song 1. And this type of command I want to put in the first cue of this cue list, because then that's going to release my other cue lists and make sure this is the only one running at this time. I say insert, and when I do that, the window doesn't close because it's waiting for me if I want to add any others. So you currently don't see any feedback this. There is feedback in the next version. And I say close. Now if I go to my timeline, I can see here's my command, release all except. Now, because I have the same look in this cue as I have in the end of the other cue list, it might make sense for me to move this command to the end of this cue so that it happens. So I know that that release happens after this cue is played. A little safety factor of knowing, hey, I'm now taking control of it from here, and off I go. So I'd want to do the same thing in my song 2 cue list. So open it up, tools, insert command, release all except, and in this case, song 2. Now by default, it's going to select the correct one. Release all except. So now I have those 2 cues in there. I'm going to save them, close them both. And if I go back to my console, I start playing this cue list. Now right now nothing else is going, so it doesn't matter much. Playing through my cues. And I'm in the end of this look. I'm ready to go to the next cue. I start this, and as soon as it hits the end, it's going to play that command. It's going to release that first one. So now I can continue to play on through here. And I'm playing just one list at a time. So this is one quick way of doing that. So you can have your songs all in different areas, different playbacks. We can also do some of these things with snapshots too. So I'm going to open these up again. I'm actually going to delete the commands out of there. Delete. Close that. Open. Actually, I don't remember which one I just opened. Yeah, there we go. Good. Close that. All right, so now I'm deleting those 2 commands out of there. So here's another way of doing this. So snapshots in Vista is a way of calling up different items, different layouts and things like that. So if I wanted to do something, I could do something like this with snapshots. So in this case, let's say I want to play my first cue list right here. So I'm in my blue look. If I right click in the snapshots, I can create a new snapshot. And then in the snapshots, we've got some options of things we want to do. So first, the option on this one that I'm looking for is the playback state option. What this means is it's going to play back whatever is currently running when I record the snapshot. And it's actually going to release anything else that if something else is running that's not recorded in the snapshot, it'll actually release it. So in this case, I'm going to record just my playback state. I'm going to turn off everything else, including console workspace. I don't want to have that because that would change my playbacks here. But in this case, I just want to have that single snapshot going. And I'm going to say this is song 1. This is my song 1 snapshot. So when I recall the snapshot, it's going to play my song 1 cue. Say OK. I'm going to release everything again. I'm going to play this song 2. I'll do the same thing. Create a new snapshot. Playback state only. Song 2. Song 2. There we go. Another option in those create snapshots you could do, which might be handy, and I'm not going to do it, but I'm going to show, clear the live program when applied. This could be very handy, especially if you do anything in live as you go. Oops, I can't do that right there. As you go through things, if you do anything in live and then you recall that snapshot with that option checked, it would clear this all out for you. So that might be a handy thing to also add in there. So now if I were to release these things, and if I recall my song 1 snapshot, it's going to play that first cue of that song. And if I play my song 2 snapshot, you can see it's automatically releasing song 1 because that was not playing when I recorded this snapshot. And now I'm in my song 2. So the snapshot like this, I could place these on buttons as well. If I wanted to have this on a playback button and recall it, I can do it that way. This can also be handy if I put these songs on different pages of playbacks. So I'm going to clear some items here. So let's say I want to have, let's say for argument purposes, we have song 1 on here, and we have a lot of other bumps and things like this we want to add to this song 1 snapshot. So what we want to do is then we do want to have the other items, the playback states and the other items recorded in there, or the window workspaces in there. guess we're Jack, did you turn the tone back on this?
Accidentally, it's off now.
Like, FedEx, is that you? All right, I'm going to delete these for a moment so I don't get myself confused. All right, so in this case, I've got song 1 on this page, song 2 on this page. So let's say I have other things on this page and I'm playing through for this song, other bumps, and then when I go to my next song, I'm going to have different bumps there as well. So in that case, what I want to do is I'd want to record a snapshot that has my console workspace also checked there. So what this will do is this is going to take me, change my page of these playbacks to where I was to make sure that this is always playing. So song 1. Again, I'm going to release that. Go to page 2. I'm going to play that one. Dang ease. They're killing me with that. It's hard using a keyboard that doesn't have much left on its labeling. All right, so now I have 2 snapshots for song 1 and song 2. If I apply my song 1 snapshot, you see the page changed. Hopefully you can see the page changes. If I apply song 2, the page changes again. So what can be helpful about doing that with that type of setup is now, and also I could go and in my song 1 page, I could add the snapshot for song 2. Let's add it up here. Now let's put it right here. And then I'm going to split this because I want to put that on that top button right there. So now I'm playing through here. I'm playing this song. Yep, doing this, bumping this, whatever I have going on. Get to the end of the song, and I want to reset everything. I hit my playback for song 2. It's going to automatically clear or release that other one, and it's playing me into that, which was into a blackout. And now I can run through all my cue lists here. So it's that console workspace lets me reset my console for my next song or for my next playback, whatever I have going on. We can take this a step farther, and we can load the cue list directly into the super playback as well. So if I loaded in the super playback and I wanted to play it here, I could do this with a snapshot as well. So let's go down here. Let me clear this item real quick. And I'm going to delete this one again so I don't confuse myself with this stuff. Oops, I deleted the cue list. Dang it. Let's undo that. I confused myself even when I tried not to. All right. All right, so I have my super playback here loaded with the snapshot. And if I play in my first cue, I could now go in here and save myself a snapshot with my playback state, console workspace. So it's going to remember where I'm at in there. And then if I were to change this over to cue list 2, song 2, and label the first one. But now when I apply that snapshot, it's going to play me. It's going to load this back up into here, and this should work. Yep, it did. Just didn't play that because I didn't have this one released and this one played when I did it. But with these snapshots, I can add this, change this here as well. So taking that a step farther, I can add these snapshots in the commands into the cue list as well. So let's do this. Tell you what, I'm going to get rid of that one because I recorded it wrong. And I'm going to play it. I'm going to create it again. All right. So in my song 1 cue list, I could go to the end of the cue list And I could also add in the command here to change my snapshot, recall a snapshot. So tools, insert command, snapshot. So at the end of my song 1 cue list, I can set it to automatically engage, apply that snapshot for cue list 2, which would reset everything. If it changed pages, I could have that happen there too. A lot of things I could do with that snapshot. So inserting that command. And something, again, you might want to look at is just moving this to the end or somewhere that we know that it's not going to interfere with what's happening already. So if this is done correctly, what I should see is, we're going to do this, grab this and drop it on there for right now, and play through this. Hit black, hit blue, and when I hit blue, it should hit the snapshot, and it did, and it automatically flipped my page here too, because I changed this, and it reloaded my super playback. So the benefit to this is you can create multiple cue lists for each of your songs or each of your sections of your programming, but then still use the super playback to play through it all. By adding those commands in there, you can set this all up and individually program things, but basically create one big master playback with using those commands and reloading what's in the super playback. It can be very powerful, helping you break up your program. Additionally, I mean, your cues don't necessarily even have to have any information in them. If I open up a new cue list, I can create a cue list that's nothing but commands. So, this is something that's an option. I don't know if it's always the best option, but in here, I can always add commands to play songs or play cue lists. So I could add, as many commands in here as there are cues in that list, and basically create a single cue list that's nothing but commands, and then add that on the super playback. Or I could add other things. I could put jumps in here and actually select which cues I want it to go to. So your cue lists don't have to actually contain any lighting information. They could contain just the commands to fire other cue lists. All right. So that's kind of a little bit of hybrid of commands and snapshots all at the same time. Some of the other things we can do with snapshots is save our live timing. So we'll go into, now that we've kind of touched on cues, we're going to go to doing some things in a live sort of busking environment. So if I was going to run fixtures live, I would probably use more of my multi-quick pickers here. Let me shrink this off to the side here. Let's add, let's add the quick picker, throw this over on this side. Actually change this to be my groups. Do some presets here. So as we're laying these things out, you can see some of this stuff comes up a little funky. The gear, the little wrench icon on here lets us adjust how this is being laid out. So our touch screen preset here of defaults, it sets up these icons to look like this. If for some reason you want to adjust this, you can get in here and adjust your icon size and the spacing. So if you have fat fingers on a touch screen, you can play with this a little bit. There's some other options in here that you can look through, but a lot of this stuff is kind of a user preference on how you want to see things. If I was going to play through a show live, I might be spending some time hitting a group and then maybe hitting intensity. I think I have some intensity presets in here as well. Yep. So I could bump through intensities like this. I could drop this into being color presets, hit my colors and all this stuff. And I'm going to take another one. I want to make this snapshots. And what I have here is I have some snapshots that I recorded with the live times. So as I'm punching through stuff here, it's all happening immediately because my live time is set to 0. This live time, there's multiple ways of running this live time. I could type in here and change it as I want to go through. I could also, because I recorded snapshots with live time in it, I could punch any of these snapshots and it's going to change that timing up there. And another option is on your console surfaces, you can set this fader to be a live time fader. So depending on how you like to run things, you can see how this live time adjusts at the top as I move this up and down. Personally, I like the live time fader, especially if I have a hard console surface in front of me. If I didn't have a console with a fader, I probably wouldn't do this. I'd probably use the snapshot way of calling up live times. But the nice thing about this is I can slam it up and down and anywhere in between as I go through things without having to press another button. In this case, I'm going to take it back down. Actually, I'm going to take it and I'm going to remove it altogether so it doesn't change anything on me right now.
Hey Ben, do you mind quickly showing how to create a lifetime snapshot quickly?
Sure. So on a live time snapshot, I'd want to take and set my live time. Again, in the snapshots, create new snapshot. In this case, I'm just going to say live time. There we go. And that's all there is to it for putting a live time snapshot in there. So what the live time does is changes how fast we're fading between things. So in this case, I have live time set at 5 seconds. So this is going to fade in 5 seconds from the color over the colors. And we can bounce through and change this as we want. 0 seconds, 2 seconds. It's also good for positions. Just going to release everything here real quick because I got a couple things going on. Grab the Vipers, set them to 100%. Maybe do a live time of 5 seconds and hit them up. And then once they're up, I could actually, as they're moving, I could change my live time back to something else and fade them out at the same time. So I could continue to keep pushing buttons and stack things on top of each other as I go. You can also use the stealth button here. I know this is something we covered in another webinar, but this is kind of where it ties in with doing things. In stealth is where I can set up a look of things I want to have happen and have it happen over the live time. So in this case, if I want to take those lights on, I don't think we did stealth with WYSIWYG running, so this might be helpful. And 2 seconds, then if I say go, it's going to happen in 2 seconds. And let's do this again. Let's hit stealth again, take my live time to 0, and I'm going to take them off and say go, and they're going to snap off. So a combination between using live times, using the presets and all this fun stuff, and stealth can be quite helpful and quite powerful in how you run a show. Additionally, there's a cue list setting in here. And actually, let me make a cue list here for this real quick. Going to take, we're going to take these guys, turn them on. Blinder, save and release. So in our cue list, when we have a cue list quick picker, we have a property in here to select to play. So if I click on this, it'll select to play, and then Alt and Control, which is the blue modifier, and select to release it. This is toggleable. You can turn it on and off. But when it's on, what it allows you to do is now I can play these things through by hitting that and then releasing them. Another option of this, so this is going to play a single cue list, play through my cue list. Another option is, I have to hit this once to play it. Well, unless I put in a second cue to release it, it would stay on. There is another way of doing this. If I go into my cue list properties, I can change my play at end option to be release. And we will get into all these properties in another webinar, so don't try to remember everything that's there. And when I change that to play, then my next play action on this would be a release. So I could bump it on, I could release it. And right now it's going by the cue timings. So if you have things that you want to have going all the time, another good example of a cue list that would do this is my my blues. You know, if I have my in-between look as this all the time, and let's say I don't want to program it into every Q list, but I've just programmed blackouts in my Q list, I could do that and do the blues and add this in here as a Q list, a single button Q list, that after I'm done playing through all my stuff, I hit my blues and I turn them on, and then I'd also have to do this properties and do the release, and then I'd release them when I'm done. So just because it's a Q list doesn't mean that you don't have access. You don't have to worry about it being on a fader. I mean, I could still put this on a fader, so I could take my blues and pop them up here and then still be able to play them that way, which is another way that would work out nicely between if you're using snapshots and you're putting your entire show on here and then changing and toggling between things. This could always remain this on all your snapshots, so you always have access to it. So there's lots of flexibility in how you have things running. I know I've kind of gone through a lot quickly. Are there any questions on any of this?
Well, not at the minute.
Okay. Earlier, Jack was showing the beta. I did not have the beta loaded up on this machine for this. In the beta, we have a new window here. Instead of it being this one, we've got the user configurable window, which is basically a blank slate window here where I can add multi-quick pickers to it. So I could pretty much do this type of thing where I'm taking everything out and I'm kind of pseudo doing this by crushing everything. I could keep adding more quick pickers. And all kinds of stuff. So that's what this last screen would be. So I have access to doing all these things here. And there is the option to add a fixture chooser in that. So I could bring this up that way. Grab some fixtures, turn them on, red. Hit my live time. Oops, I lost my live time. There we go. Snapshots. Go there. Take them the fan. And just bouncing through all kinds of stuff here. Also in here, if we want to get a little bit more screen real estate on these quick pickers, these drop-down menus, we can kind of make them go away for right now. So in the little hamburger menu, we call it here, if I go and take it to compact, it's going to remove all that stuff at the top. So in something like the multi-quick picker, it kind of makes it a little bit cluttered to see exactly what's going on there. So I definitely like doing this on single quick pickers because what it does is it's just going to show me what's in this single quick picker. So actually, let me uncompact that. Let's make this presets real quick and go to color so we can see what that looks like. Yeah, so then we can see it's just color presets. Now, unfortunately, when you do that, you can't go and change your filtering. I can't keep changing things as easily as I did here. But if I'm doing this on another monitor and it's just for playback, it makes it very handy. And one other thing that the snapshots can record is my window layout here and how I have all this set up. So if I've created this layout that I like, I can create a new snapshot. Now here's the catch with doing a snapshot of window layouts. You need to make sure you're in the window layout you want to see when you record the snapshot. If I was in here and recorded a snapshot with my window workspaces, it would take me back to this screen each time I recalled that snapshot. It's not really helpful. So in this case, we can create a snapshot by going to the components drop-down menu. And if I do that one and say new snapshot, then say Windows Workspace, window workspace, and actually kill live time. And this is my playback. And I'm going to take it up a step too. I'm also going to clear live when I apply it. So now if I have some things on like that, And let's say I happen to be over in this screen, or if I have a console, I could put this on a button that I have ready to go. In this case, I don't have a console, so it's going to be easier for me to recall this from just right here for the moment. When I apply this snapshot, it takes me back to this window layout. It cleared live for me, and I'm all set up. So I can go and rearrange everything as I like and have a snapshot that brings it all back to where I want it. It's also handy to do a snapshot that way. That might be a default layout. So because I've jacked this up so much, let's say this is my default layout. One thing that I've been doing now in some of and recommending on some of the installs, especially in places where there's volunteers, is creating a default snapshot of your window like this. So I would do that. I would say new snapshot, window workspace, and also clear live as well, and say this is my home. I could take it a step farther and add a playback state, which would release all the Q lists because nothing's running right now. That could be dangerous. So in this case, I'm just going to leave it. I'm just going to do window workspace and clear live. And now I have a home snapshot, and I'm going to take this and I'm going to add an MV because I'm going to say that this is for, you've got barely any room for anything like this. So I have a home snapshot right here. So what that lets me do is if that console is sitting on the desk somewhere and someone comes in and starts moving things around, there's nothing there to move around, but starts going through different windows and doing all kinds of things, or moving this around and really causing problems, so that the next person that comes in who doesn't really understand what happened and why does it all look weird, if I have this snapshot on a playback over here and I have it ready to go, I hit home and it's going to reset it all back to where it needs to be. So it's a very handy thing. And also, again, because it cleared live, if for some reason fixtures were hanging, or actually, let me do this instead of something that's right on the same screen, I'm going to pick something that's in a weird spot. Let's see. Go to everything. How about that one element on that fixture? There we go. So, I've got one thing hanging here. I've got no idea what it is, where it is. I mean, I could hit clear here. If I understand that that's what that is, I could do that. But if I have nothing but a console and I've been taught nothing but the console, I can say, hey, teacher people, create this snapshot, hit home, and it's going to get rid of anything that was hanging there, and it's going to take you right back. With that, you could create a snapshot that doesn't move the workspace, that only does clear, and set it up as a clear button on a playback as well. So there's a lot of power in snapshots of what you can do and what you can stack, and kind of work things. It's similar to a macro, but with a little different functionality. All right. So any questions on anything? Anything on, even on commands? I
Not at the minute.
kind of went through commands pretty quickly. I'm just going to kind of refresh on what commands can do here. There are a number of commands. Obviously, we can play and we can go back through things, reassert. Also release. I can release individual Q lists from a command. So if I have a command, I have a Q list that runs all the time, I could create a command for that. You can release the same Q list you're working in, so you have to watch out for that type of thing because it's very easy to do that. Release all flash, time code enable and reset, and we're going to get into time code on a newer one. MIDI control enable, and there are some new commands in the next version. And Jack, what were those new ones? I blanking on what they were.
We have this target in the actual target section, so you don't have to keep defining a list if you're duplicating lists or stuff like that. And we've also got a select action, which is useful for playback views and stuff like that.
Yeah, so there's a new command for select, which means it's basically pushing the select button for a Q list. And there's one for loading in the super playback too, correct? That we can have a command that automatically loads stuff in the super playback.
Yeah, I knew there was one more. So that saves you having to create snapshots just for loading single Q lists into the super playback.
Yep. So those would all be commands in a Q list. All right, so we got here. Wow, I kind of really went through that stuff all pretty fast. Let's see. So playing back. Anything else for playing back? Oh, yes, effects masters, right. I knew there was something else here. So some of the other things we can do with running things live is we have those new effects masters. They allow us to assign effects to certain things, to certain masters. So let's do this. Let's take these. Gonna make a new effect. We're just gonna keep it a quick. Do a swing on color mix. Yes, thank you. All right. So I'm not going to get too much into the effects since we did do a webinar on smart effects. So this is more of a how to play back this stuff live. So in our smart effects here, we have this smart effects master, and also the tap effects rate. This corresponds also with another one that we have in the playback. If I want to have this on a master, I would assign it to a color master, to a rate master. Now these rate masters are ones that were previously created. When you start a new show in Vista, you're not going to see this many masters. You're going to see a master A and a master B. Just like anything else in here, to create a new master, right click, say create new FX master, name it, give a default. That's all there is to it. So right now I have this color rate master. To put this on a fader, it's the same thing, drag and drop. So right now, because I assigned that to the color rate master, I have the control of how fast this thing is going. I also have the tap rate button at the bottom. It's a button that I can add to anything, so it doesn't necessarily have to be at the bottom. But with that, I can see that things are changing there. One of the keys here is that because I'm running this per cycle, this is going outrageously fast. Even if I tap slowly, it still moves a little too fast through everything. Let's actually bring this down so we can do like a single fixture. So if I was to tap this, yeah, that's still too fast. I need to change this to per fixture, which would give me probably what I'm looking to see is each fixture is bouncing as I tap it. So the difference here is when I use the tap rate in the Smart Effects panel, it's saving it to the effect itself. When I use the tap rate on an effects master, it's basically just doing a temporary, and I can override it and change things here. I also have options to reset the rate. So I'm going to, oops, let me do this. Let's take it to another page. Unsplit. Drop in my color rate on here. Hey, that's better. So now I have, this is what it would look like by default if I'm using the entire playback for that effects master. I have my tap rate on the top, I have a tap rate on the bottom, but I might want to have reset rate on the top. So if I'm tapping this, and then I can reset it. And I can see in the rate field here that it's changing. And also as I go up and down, my rate changes as well. So some of the things we can do in Vista is with the modifier keys, we can add multiple fader actions. So in this case, I have a couple different fader actions. So I have a rate on the top fader here, but I could also add a size action to the second layer of faders. So in this case, if I hold my shift key or the red modifier, it's going to open up, it's going to take me to another layer of fader actions. So I have rate on the top one. I'm going to put size on this one. So this is probably not going to do anything right now. Actually, this is a bad example now that I think about it, because you can't really see the size. So let's ditch that and let's try something different here for showing the different faders. I'm going to do a new effect. I'm going to do a wave effect, and it's just going to be in a position. And just that. Make that a little bigger. That's better. All right. So now I'm going to take and I'm going to put both the rate and the size in the same effects master. Even though they're both labeled that, it's the same effects master. I'll do both of them. However, I can kind of filter which one I'm using by which fader I'm using down here. So let me go to a blank page, and we're going to do a position rate. And actually, let me change this back to per fixture so it slows down a bit. Yeah, that looks good. All right. So now I have my rate fader on the top here. I'm going to hold shift. I'm going to drop my size on the next key. So now what I have is I have both a rate and a size on the same, basically the same playback using the same fader, depending on which modifier key I'm holding. So I can go and I can quickly adjust, I can adjust rate and I can adjust size using the same fader and not burning up extra playbacks. I can also do a rate and size fader. So for any of the AVO people, this would be like a mode 2 fader. This is probably one of my favorite ones where I can slowly bring an effect up and in and larger and smaller. Something I used to love to do with on other consoles. So I get the same effect out of that. The effects masters, these are just named position intensity beam. They don't mean I only can use these for these parameters. An effects master can do anything. It can do any parameter that you want on there. I could have, multiple effects tied to the same effects master. It's completely arbitrary as to what you use on here. So don't worry that you have it named a certain way. That's why when they're by default, they're named effects master A and effects master B, just so that you understand that, it's just a generic effects master. So I can do whatever I want with it. In the next version, we have some new bells and whistles on effects masters, especially in buttons. We have a double rate, quad rate, half rate, all kinds of things in here. So many more things than I remember what there are right now, but there's been a lot more added to that. It's still being tested to make sure everything works the way it's supposed to. All right. So, all right, any other, I assume still no questions on any of that there, Jack?
Still no questions. Oh, actually, we just got a question now. What is it?
Okay. Let me see what this question here is.
It's a long question. Pretty much though, when you're applying those snapshots that are changing the views, it's just the same thing as if you were to click it with the mouse, not using a snapshot. It's a one-time thing, so it can't be toggled on and off or undone. You just need to press the other snapshot again and go back to the other view that you had before.
Yeah, you're not locked into the snapshot. So if I'm in this screen and I hit my playback snapshot, it hasn't changed anything in the other screen. I can still go back to it. Now in this case, because it does all this other stuff, if I wanted to reset this back, if I didn't have a snapshot of it in its default and its home look, I would have to then go and actually manually change all this stuff back. So That's why I like having that home snapshot, because then I can do that type of thing and not have to manually go back through and change everything back. But it's basically like a bookmark. It's recalling what you had up at that time. And it's also, the snapshot is a one-time, not as one-time thing, but it's not dynamic. So because even if I recall that snapshot and I change something here, this isn't dynamically changing the snapshot, because all it was just a quick boom, there it changed. So none of that. If I recall the home snapshot, it just takes it back to where it was. All right. I kind of forgot where I was going with stuff here too. All right, so yeah, something I had here in my song 1 cue list was a move in black cue. Again, this is another good thing to have in here, using your move in blacks, because it allows you to set up your look ahead of time before you turn things on. So let's say if, in this cue list, I have my blue walk-in look, but then I want it to come into something else. Now, I've been messing around with this thing, and I get some stuff that's happening there where it goes in and out, which is actually what I like. But using this move in black lets me set up these fixtures to be ready to go for the next cue. So a question came up earlier on, why do it in move in black versus manually? Let's do this real quick. All right, so that's going to go up to the audience. They're going to come on. So right now I've got nothing in this first cue, and these lights come on and they go up to the audience. If I wanted them to pre-start up in the audience, I could do it manually. I could go back to this cue and I could grab them and turn them in the audience. So then it would do exactly what I want to do. They're going to start up there. The problem here is that if I decide to change this and go to put them on the singer, when I go back to this cue, they're going to start at the audience and then they're going to fade down to the singer. Now, in this case, that actually might be a nice look, but I don't want it to be that way. I want it to start on the singer. So in order to do that, by doing it this, I'd have to go back here and then change that again. If I use that as a move in black instead, everything I do in this cue is going to dynamically change to the preceding cue. So in this case, I have my light selected. I'm going to go to Tools, Mark Cue Move in Black. I'm going to put it in the previous cue and say OK. Now what happens here is these lights are preset in this other cue. They're going to go to their position. They're going to come on. And let's say we decided we're going to change that again, and we're going to go back to the audience in this cue instead. We'll see that I don't have to do anything in the previous cue. They're automatically taking that new position and going to that new position. So isn't there a spot where move in black helps you preset things and get things where they need to go? Just a quick refresher on the move in blacks functionality. Again, it would do this because when you're running in cue listing, even if you're running live, it's helpful to know the difference between that, because move in black works for preloading fixtures where you want them to go, but a lot of times if you're running live, you don't want that move in black. You want things to move because you want to see that movement. All right. All right, let's take a look at what we got here for some questions. I'm seeing some things pop up out of the corner of my eye.
Just got a couple of questions just come in. The last two there about stealth and same show files.
Set console for different individuals with different preferences. Same. I mean, your snapshots are going to be what you're probably going to want for that.
But you'd have to have a different playback pages on your console, so how they want their queue list set up and that type of stuff.
Yeah, so if you have different queue lists, you know, let's say one individual only needs to see this queue list and another individual needs to see a different queue list all the time, you'd have to set up as different pages on here and then create a snapshot that does your window workspace or your console workspace, I'm sorry, console workspaces, and that's going to change all these pages to where they need to be. And then that snapshot can live in the pool over here. It doesn't have to live on a playback if you want it to. And then you say, okay, well, when you come in to do your stuff, go to that snapshots page and apply your snapshot, and it's going to be where you want it to be. And the snapshot, by applying it like that, I can also make these changes here so that everything is laid out on the screen the way I want to see it too. Loading a stealth move.
Possibly extracts are the best way to do the split times, unless you do it so quick.
Then change lifetime and set another change.
Or you could do it like that. If you do a 2-second position and then change it to 5-second color, if you did it in that quick order, it would work as you expect.
I think I'm lost on that one. I'm not.
So literally, click 2 seconds, click position, click 5 seconds, click color preset. The position would move in 2 and the color would move in 5.
Right. Okay. Well, it's okay. Yes, you can do that live, but in stealth, you're not going to be able to set that up, as stealth is a single action when I go to a stealth queue. So if I turn this on and turn on the color, we went over this. We tried this earlier today.
Oh yeah, coming out of stealth, it's all going at the time you press go on the single lifetime. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I can't set up. I couldn't set up this in stealth, as cool as that would be. I can't set that up in stealth and then go to it. It's all happening at the same time. So stealth is more of a 2-scene preset where I'm setting up a single thing to go. Now, if I wanted to do that, my best bet would probably be do something with an extract. I then do intensity on and color blue, and then set this up and do all this fun stuff. The problem with this is it's not going to be as quick as, you know, this is something you have to predetermine. You won't be able to set that up live. Now, if I recall that extract, it comes on and then changes color. So yeah, took a little longer than something I'd be able to do live that way. So yes, exactly what Jack said there. Best to do that in an extract. So with that being said, I mean, if you have a certain sequence of looks that you want to do all the time that you like to do, then definitely set up as an extract ahead of time. It's going to be the best way of doing that. Stealth, I like to say, is almost more of a, you know, I'm sitting in my blackout, or I'm sitting and the singer is ranting on about this and that, and you know, I've had a lot of time to think about what I want to do when I come out of that, and you know, I got all this stuff set up and blah 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 and that, and I'm just sitting here. I'm just waiting for the guy to do his thing and finish up. And actually, I'm going to change this to 2.5. Why not? And now I'm all ready to go, and I say go, and boom, everything's happening. So, but like I said, it's all going to happen at one time. So if I wanted to kind of make something bounce on and bounce back off again, I'd have to go through and press a lot of things there. All right, well, we have a few minutes left. I'm pretty much have gone through what I was going to go through. Just kind of let this, open this up for if anyone else has any other questions. Any other thoughts? You have anything else yourself there, Jack?
No, I don't think so.
It might help just, you know, again, with a console surface, we can add this stuff to these playbacks. So right-clicking on them, saying split vertically, lets me take something like the EX and really kind of drill this down into lots of different things I can do with it. So if I have fixture selected, I can go to a red preset and all these different presets. So running something live with the hardware is very helpful. But again, you know, doing this with touchscreen as well can be good too. So it depends on how you like to operate. If you're good with touchscreen buttons or you like hard buttons. So anyway, with that, we'll wrap this up. If no one else has any other questions. Tomorrow we will have, we'll release what we're going to do for next week for our webinars. I don't remember what they are off the top of my head, but we've already decided what that was. The webinars were being uploaded to our YouTube channel. And also the show file, these show files are on the Vista website on the downloads page, right where you'd find the downloads for the versions of Vista that are on there. Underneath that, you have the WYSIWYG file and also the Vista show file. So we use the WYSIWYG console demo right here. You'd have to download WYSIWYG, run it in demo mode, put it in console demo mode, and then you can load up the Vista 3 main demo show file. So if you want to ever play with what we've done right here, you can grab both of those and have at it. And yeah.
Next week's webinars are going to be learn timing and external triggering on Wednesday, and on the 23rd, Thursday, programming and working with in a worship or educational environment.
Perfect. External triggering will be fun. We're going to cover some MIDI notes and do a little bit of time code, things like that. So, all right. Well, with that, if that takes care of it and there's no other questions, then we'll stop this one and see everybody on the next one. Thanks, everyone.